to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
What's kind of your investment strategy, at least whatever you're willing to share here? Your own things, real estate. We've talked a little bit about restaurants, stock market. What we need to hear what you do for work too, by the way, Southern Wall Systems. But I'm curious from an investment standpoint, what's your kind of strategy there?
We'll start with let's just start with the stock market activity I want to do there. So I have a set it and forget it boring 401k structured, which is heavy, pretty much all index funds, especially being under 40 years old. I check it once a month, and that's just because I track my personal finances the same way I do the companies, as like a balance sheet. So I'll check that just once a month, but I don't really care. I'm not making any active movements, sporadic. I mean, I do reevaluate it year end, see how things are performing, see if my gut reaction's still there, good in place, set it, but then I'll usually leave it in place.
Mm-hmm. Do you manage that yourself, or do you have a manager for that?
So we go through because it's through the 401k and through a company structure, it's managed by by Voya, a platform.
Got it. Yep.
But I do have the ability to go on there the same I do with my E-Trade account and move it over, swap it over. But again, I set the thing up. It's pretty diversified as far as, between international, small cap, mid cap, large cap. And again, it's just kind of a boring account that just, I max it out every year and just let it sit there. And, but I do have a much more active account, which started probably 4 years ago as kind of a just goofy, just play around in it. Didn't really know much about direct securities investment. Was more just understood 401ks, but had no idea about individual companies and investments 4 or 5 years ago when I started this thing. But now it's ballooned over the last, couple years as I've gotten more educated on it. And I found myself now where that's like I just enjoy it. I enjoy going through. It's almost like a treasure hunt for me, is going through companies' K1s and, sorting through their balance sheet, income statement, cash flows, just trying to find an undervalued company.
Okay.
So that account, the E-Trade account, is definitely the more interesting one. What I'll do is, it's a pretty basic approach. I just try and think about the future and where trends are going, where markets are going. If there may be a sector that's beat up more than it should be. This year has been really dynamic, obviously. Just with so much volatility in the market, it's been really fun for me to try and forecast out where I think things are going, trying to find the value there. So I've got a portfolio right now of probably 15 companies. I have been stockpiling cash just because of what we see around election time. There's obviously volatility in election time. So been stockpiling cash, waiting to strike as if I think that there's some value opening up there. But I think my approach overall could be summed up in that one word of value. I'm not particular. There's some industries that I stay away from because I just don't think that the long-term game's there. But outside of that, I'm really open to value in any industry. I mean, I've got bank stocks. I also have, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I've got some potential high growth marijuana stocks. I've got, what else? Railroads.
Okay,
So
interesting.
there's kind of some boring things in there. But I say that because that's just where I've found the values in a lot of different sectors. And everybody needs to have, in my personal opinion, I'm not a financial advisor, but in my personal opinion, everybody should be holding on to those mega cap stocks like your Amazons and Microsofts and things like that. But that's kind of in my boring portfolio. But I'm tracking them if I see that they get their PE ratios down to something that's reasonable. I mean, I think all of them right now are north of 100, which is way too high for me personally. Not saying that they're overvalued. I mean, there's a lot of forecasting growth built in there, but I tend to focus on companies that are, I think the market's just unfair. The market's targeting them at a price point that is just unkind for one reason or another.
Yeah, in the E-Trade, in the sort of the fund, what started out at least as the fund account, that's where you're just buying the individual stocks, correct?
Correct.
And are you spending some amount of time on that on a daily basis or a weekly basis?
So the goal for me there, I check it daily, several times a day, but it's not so much as I'm constantly active.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so I'm looking for opportunity, because the ultimate goal for me in that account is, for one, I have stocks in there that I'm not losing sleep over them. It's like I'm buying them because I'm buying them for the long game.
Mm-hmm.
I still have that element in there. So really the activity isn't to see how the stocks I own performing that particular day, because I have no intent to sell one way or another.
Yeah.
It's really logging on to see if one of them is getting beat up for some reason, and acknowledging why it is, and if it's something that I should really be concerned with, or if it's something that I think that the company will outlast and I'll buy more.
Right. Yeah, I see. When you said you had some high growth marijuana stock in there, that would be a publicly traded company, obviously in a state where marijuana has been legalized, or is it outside the United States?
So it started out, there's one that I have, it's a Florida-based company that started out, I had to trade it on the Canadian stock market because I bought it, I think, a year and a half ago, when it came out early. But now it has moved over into the Dow, and it's in a legal state, and they're looking to expand into other legal states that are coming up, like Massachusetts and Nevada and those areas. The other one that I have is fully Canadian based. They do have an international reach, but so when I find a sector, this circles back to kind of my overall thought process when I'm researching companies. If I find an industry that I think is going to have a long-term uptick in growth, like marijuana stocks are, I really think that there's going to be high growth there for the next 10, 20 years without question. So I'll take every company in that industry and basically break down their financials, and I've built my own spreadsheet with formulas that I type in, and I just go column by column comparison to figure out which ones I think are better ran. And it goes all the way down to after their balance sheets. I'm also looking at the CEOs and the directors, and just checking into them, seeing what their track record is. And it's really, I look at it as being an investor in that company. And that's what you really are, but it's, it's really pointing out the obvious, but you need to take it serious. There's not a company that I own that I haven't done a thorough investigation.
Yeah, you definitely are taking it serious. I mean, you're putting some time into that. Are you doing that sort of in the course of your workday, more or less, or evenings, or
so
where
I'll
you carve
check
out
it.
the time?
I'll check it sporadically. Like I'll check it at lunch. During lunch times, I also check it in the afternoon. I just randomly will pull up the account.
I see.
But it's not a main focus of my day.
Yep.